getting to where you want to go, living beyond the optics, getting things done. These are all hallmarks of being a traditional New Yorker. Enter today's multi-dimensional environment inhabited by people like Sean Carter, aka Jay-Z, and Donald Trump, a rap mogul and a real estate mogul gone POTUS. What does Jay-Z know and apply that Donald Trump doesn't? In today's discussion, we're keeping it conversational and not confrontational while attempting to be a little educational. Sorry guys. Be sure to stay tuned until the end for what may actually be quite a surprise. Here we go. A subject matter expert, or an SME, traditionally comes from software development. SMEs come up time and again. It's like lingo that's used in project management. It's used in corporate speak. So let's go ahead and break down what an SME is. A domain expert, a person with authority in a particular area or topic. The term domain expert is frequently used in expert systems software development, and the term refers to a domain other than the software domain. Okay, so if you take an SME and they are a lawyer, they're going to be a subject matter expert in the sense of legal terminology and definitions of legal things that lawyers do when they're lawyering. An SME on political campaigning might be somebody that's helped a candidate win a role in any kind of election. The level of subject matter expertise is going to be varied. I'm going to get into the difference between Sean Carter and Donald Trump shortly. But in order to get into that conversation, I really need to bring you into the thought process of why SMEs matter. Okay, so the recruitment of SMEs can be traced back just about to the dawn of time. Back in the day, around 70 to 80,000 years ago, humans congregating in tribes were split amongst two areas of expertise: hunting and gathering. While some in the tribal system would focus on creating fishing nets, hooks, and bone harpoons, others would go on to cultivate gathering skills, which would eventually be referred to as agriculture. That was about 12,000 years ago. Now that's a pretty basic view of the concept. Next, let's move on to ancient Rome. You know, the place where Julius Caesar was the head of operations. So in his time, he was kind of like the Jay-Z, only they'd probably refer to him as JC. Nah, didn't land. All right, moving on. Caesar was able to build up Rome using the same simple concept being discussed here. He knew how to assemble and then delegate authority to subject matter experts. Caesar, for his part, was considered to be the pious one, a frontman that could be seen as a religious leader type. I mean, he literally called himself Pontifex Maximus. Sound familiar? Pompey was the greatest military leader of his time. He specialized in the art of war. He was built for strategic intelligence, so you weren't going to get much past him. He was an expert in military might. That brought him to the table. Crassus made his money in the real estate game. Back then, it was called land speculation. I mean, it was kind of shady, right? He put together a fire brigade, and then he'd wait for houses to burn down. He would basically offer the owner some money, buy the house while it's on fire, and then the house was his, and he'd flip it. Alright, by anyone's standards today, these three were hustlers, not unlike three other individuals who would come centuries later in a land far, far away called New York. Either way, the three aligned and created what was known to become the first triumvirate. It was an alliance of SMEs who delegated, in turn, to a legion of SMEs in an ongoing network of power and influence. Seems kind of similar to another place that we know of today, huh? And that's a great example. The first triumvirate shows us how subject matter experts raising themselves into leadership positions employ other SMEs or subject matter experts in order to create a network of expertise that helps them divide, conquer, and ultimately proliferate and get themselves into positions of global power. That brings me to my example of Sean Carter versus Donald Trump. and how they both rose to get to where they've gotten. Now, from the outside looking in, Jay-Z's smart, because The Rock was Jay, Dame, and Biggs. And it could be argued that they are a triumvirate of their own. But let's take a deeper look at that, and let's see how the formulation rolled out. Very few stories in modern times are as closely examined and celebrated as that of Sean Jay-Z Carter and his team of SMEs that constituted Rockefeller Records. We need not go into immense detail, but there are a few instances where Carter defaulted to his SMEs and ultimately, by falling back, he benefited. Take, for instance, the fact that he didn't believe in a young Kanye West's contributions beyond being a hit-making record producer. Carter's then partner, Dame Dash, onboarded West as an artist and helped develop him into the caliber of star who would arguably become one of Carter's greatest collaborators on the mic. One need not look further than Watch the Throne to understand this vein of reasoning. Whether it's a nod to Timbaland, Jess Blaze, or even the legendary Rick Rubin, Carter's always been respectful and cleared the tarmac for the experts molding his sonic identity to do their jobs. Now, as the times changed, growth and development ensued. Carter took the helm at Def Jam Records and would continue onward after Rockefeller with executive Jay Brown, the multifaceted Desiree Perez, and a tight inner circle woven with SMEs in their own right. They share the band of the hand. Brown, a consummate music executive with a golden ear, is now vice chairman at Roc Nation, working on its expansion into sports and film. Perez, having honed her expertise by running ventures with Carter ranging from multiple locations of the 40/40 Club to the streaming company Tidal, to the Made in America Festival, all the way to becoming the CEO of Roc Nation. Carter knew the level of expertise required for him to step into the context of his next set of power moves, down to the selection of Mrs. Carter. Now, whether you like his music or agree with his business approach or not, one thing you can say about him is that Sean Carter surrounds himself with the world's greatest subject matter experts. This, in turn, enables the capability to wield tremendous amounts of influence while being trusted as an SME himself. During times he exemplifies the characteristics of a true leader. Now, if you've not been paying attention to the Trump, then you've been under a rock. I don't think there's any human being alive that doesn't know about this guy. So let's take a look at how this person rose to power as well. But did they employ subject matter expertise in the same way, shape, and form? Well, let's have a look. No introduction is needed for a man referred to for so long as the Donald, otherwise known as the 45th President of the United States. One part P.T. Barnum and another part Edward Bernays, Donald Trump is a master of showmanship, self-promotion, and propaganda. His appetite for brand alignment and diversity is unparalleled, and it's led to endorsement deals with both McDonald's and the introduction of my personal favorite, the stuffed crust pizza. Add in some steaks, a university, a hit TV series, and the romantic life of a Hollywood star. There's not much you can find odd coming from this New York real estate mogul, whose catchphrase would be heard around the world. You're fired. From the comings and goings of SMEs from Trump's sensational narrative, including such characters as Steve Bannon, Paul Manafort, Michael Cohen, and Roger Stone, it's hard to discern fact from fiction. But the one thing you can count on is the fact that subject matter experts flock around the Donald. Before jumping into any surface level conclusions though, there's a couple of areas where the Donald actually has retained subject matter expertise consistently. Let's explore. Long before entering political stardom, Kellyanne Conway created her own firm called The Polling Company, and would fish out consumer trends for clients such as Vaseline, Amex, and Hasbro, among others. With a keen eye to understanding the psychology of the consumption habits of the American public, she was able to translate her learnings into her next area of expertise, the media. It can be said that during the 90s, Conway and a small group of other like-minded consultants turned cable news into the area that it is today, rife with political pundits and power brokering. In the early 2000s, she lived in Trump Towers and forged a close relationship with the Donald, aiding him eventually in his request to see if a gubernatorial run in New York City would be plausible in 2013. Now that was before he would announce his decision to run for president. One thing led to another, and in short, after Paul Manafort stepped down as Trump's campaign advisor, Conway stepped in and seized the moment. One of her greatest early victories was coming up with the phrase alternative facts. In other words, what comedian Stephen Colbert would satirize years earlier as truthiness. Currently, Conway maintains the role of counselor to the president and continues to be seen on cable news networks worldwide on behalf of the administration and, of course, the Donald. A little discussed yet integral SME on Trump's team is a digital media director named Brad Parscale. Working with the Trump Organization, a collective of over 500 companies in the Donald's portfolio, in 2011, Parscale was onboarded to become Trump's digital guru. Now, it's been widely documented how Parscale utilized employees at Facebook, Twitter, and Google to create online campaigns for Trump during his first election. And he was the mastermind behind hiring Cambridge Analytica to aid with what they called micro-targeting. Now, based upon the value he brings to the table, in 2020, Donald Trump announced that Parscale is his re-election campaign manager. Quite a testament to the power of both big and small data. Say what you will about the Donald or Trump or whatever you want to call him, but it looks like he does keep a stable of subject matter experts on call. Whether he listens to them or not is another question altogether, and frankly, that could be the subject of another video. Something we're not going to get into right now. The thing to keep in mind here is defining your SMEs helps you put together your org chart. And these are all concepts that translate into today's age and roles of positions we play in society as well as business culture. And look, every rapper's got a team. How are you going to staff it up? That's what an SME is. We got another word for it. It's a brain trust. Whatever you want to call it, it serves the same function. And people play many of the same roles. So I encourage you, staff up with SMEs. You'll always be on the winning team. If this kind of discussion entices you, then I would suggest subscribe to this channel, click like, share it with your friends, leave a comment below. Maybe I could have gone in more in depth. I've got a limited amount of time, but I'm trying to get there. And I'm going to keep delving into this. So in conclusion, what we're looking at here are two different people from a very similar place that have used subject matter expertise in very different ways. And as of this moment, when the production on this video concludes, they're in two very different places in terms of how they've treated SMEs in the annals of history. And there's no telling where each one of them is going to go. If we follow history, then we're going to see one certain type of pattern. But we're in uncharted territory here. This argument is also about what the two do not do similarly. One of them is on social media as a consummate presence, while the other one is not. That may be feeding into some of the end results as well. I'm watching just as much as you are. This dreadlock gentleman right here is Jaron Lanier. Don't be so quick to judge a book by its cover. Also a New Yorker, born during a crucial era of change, Lanier is the founding father of the field of virtual reality. What's more, he developed work at Atari and Microsoft before selling off his own company to a then tiny startup called Google. When it comes to being one of the world's foremost authorities around how technology, and in this case social media, affects human beings, there is nobody with more knowledge. So what does he have to say about Trump?
I have never known Trump, but I have met him a few times over a fairly long period, over 30 years actually, through different circumstances. And I will say that while I never would have voted for him as president, and I always thought he was somewhat untrustworthy and a bit of a showman and a bit of a scammer, he never lost himself and became so strangely insecure and so weirdly irritable until he had his own addiction, in this case to Twitter. And it's really damaged him. I mean, I view Trump in a way as a victim.
Really?
Oh yeah, absolutely. His character has been really damaged by his Twitter addiction.
Because of the reaction he gets from each tweet.
Yeah, so you know what happens in addiction is the addict becomes hooked not just on the good part of the addiction experience, but on the whole cycle. So a gambler is not just addicted to winning, but to this whole process where they mostly lose. And in the same way, the Twitter addict or the social media addict becomes addicted to this engagement, which is often unpleasant, where they're engaged in these, really abusive exchanges with other human beings. And only once in a while is that, you can watch Trump, like every once in a while there will be this tweet where somebody likes him, and that's when he gets his little, we call it in the trade the dopamine hit. That's what it's called on Facebook, for instance. He gets his little dopamine hit, and then he dives in for more negativity and things, then he gets it again. And you can see the addiction playing out.
What does Jay-Z do that Trump doesn't? He listens to his SMEs, and he stays off of social media. And he probably will subscribe to Producing Creative. Until next time, I'm out. Fishel. That all said, man, Trump can subscribe too, man. I mean, I could probably teach him a couple of things. Who knows, right? It's a crazy time. It's a crazy universe. It's a crazy land of opportunity, you know? New Yorkers helping New Yorkers. Let's go make it. You know what I'm saying? Let's go get it.